My name is Presley Dixon, and I'm 28 years old. 3 weeks ago, my mother, the woman who packed my clothes in a suitcase and shoved me out the front door at 16, showed up on my porch crying. Her mascara was running, her hands were shaking, and the first words out of her mouth weren't, "I'm sorry," or "I missed you." They were, "Gerald is dying. He needs a bone marrow transplant. And you're the only one in the family who can help." 12 years. That's how long my mom pretended I didn't exist. No birthday cards, no phone calls, no Thanksgiving plate saved, nothing. And now she needed something from me, something that lived inside my bones. I looked at her standing there and I said, "Did you bring the same suitcase you packed my clothes in when you kicked me out at 16?" She went pale. I opened the door wider and said, "Come in. I have something to show you." Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you, and drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to a cold November night in 2014, the night my mother chose her husband over her daughter. I'm 16 and I'm sitting at the kitchen table with a bank statement I found while looking for documents for a school project. My grandmother, my dad's mother, Grandma Vivian, opened a college savings account the day I was born. She deposited every birthday check, every Christmas 20, every spare dollar she could. By the time she passed when I was 12, that account held $14,300. It was the only thing she left me, and it was supposed to carry me to college. The statement in my hand says the current balance is 217. My hands are cold. I read it again. Gerald walks in from the garage. He's still wearing his work boots, tracking mud on the tile my mom just mopped. I hold up the paper. "What happened to my college fund?" He freezes mid-step. His eyes go to the paper, then to me, then to the hallway where my mom is folding laundry. "You went through my things," he says. "It's my account. Grandma Vivian started it for me." He snatches the paper out of my hand. "That's none of your business. $14,000 of my college money is none of my business." My mom appears in the doorway. She's holding a towel, wringing it with both hands. She won't look at me. "Mom, did you know about this?" She doesn't answer. She looks at Gerald. He shakes his head at her, a tiny motion, barely visible, but I see it. "Mom, Presley, just let it go. Gerald's handling it." Gerald steps closer. His voice drops low. "You want to blow up this family over $14,000. Is that what you want?" I'm 16 years old. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, and the two adults who are supposed to protect me are looking at me like I'm the problem. That feeling, that exact feeling, I carry it for the next 12 years. It happens fast after that. Gerald goes up. I hear drawers opening and slamming. My mom follows him, and there's whispering, urgent, hissing whispers I can't quite make out. I sit at the kitchen table, still holding nothing, because Gerald took the statement out of my hand. 10 minutes later, Gerald comes downstairs. Scare is carrying my blue suitcase. He's packed it himself. I can tell because the zipper is barely closed, and a sleeve of my hoodie is sticking out. He drops it at my feet. "Pack whatever else you need. You've got 5 minutes." I look at my mom. She's standing on the bottom step, one hand on the railing, crying, but not moving. "Mom, are you serious right now?" "Presley, you always have to make everything harder than it needs to be." That sentence, I replay it 10,000 times over the next decade. Gerald grabs my arm, my right wrist, and pulls me toward the door. Not hard enough to break anything, hard enough to leave a mark. The front door opens. Cold air rushes in. November in Virginia, 9 at night, 38 degrees. He sets the suitcase on the porch. I step out after it because I don't know what else to do. I'm 16. The door closes behind me. I hear the deadbolt turn, then the chain then. The porch light goes off. I knock. Nothing. I knock harder. Gerald's voice from inside. I said, "Get." I pick up my suitcase and walk down the steps. The wheels catch on the sidewalk crack I used to jump over on my bike. Across the street, a light turns on. Mrs. Calloway's front door opens. She's in her bathrobe, squinting into the dark. "Presley, sweetheart, is that you?" Her voice cracks, and so do I, Mrs. Calloway wraps a quilt around my shoulders and sits me at her kitchen table. She puts the kettle on, then she picks up the phone. "Ruth, it's Miss Calloway. You need to come get your niece." She pauses, listens. "Right now." They put her out. While we wait for Ruth, Mrs. Calloway looks at us. It's already swellings, a thick red band where Gerald's fingers gripped. "We're going to the emergency room first," she says. Not a question. At Cedar Valley Regional, a nurse photographs my wrist, documents the bruising, asks if I feel safe. I say I don't know. They give me an ice pack and a discharge summary. I'm patient number 47. That night, a 16-year-old girl with a contusion on her right wrist, and no explanation that makes sense. Aunt Ruth arrives at midnight. She's driven 3 hours from Ashford, still in the sweatshirt she sleeps in. She doesn't say much. She just wraps her arms around me and holds on until I stop shaking. In her car on the dark highway heading east, she asks, "Do you want me to call the police?" "No, I don't want to end up in foster care. I just want to stay with you." Ruth nods, grips the steering wheel tighter. The next morning, she drives back alone. She walks into my mother's house, collects the rest of my things, and tells Colleen, "From this day forward, you don't have a sister." Ruth never tells me everything Colleen said that morning, but she comes home with a manila folder. Inside the discharge summary, the photos of my wrist, and a receipt from a gas station timestamped 11:47 p.m., the night I was thrown out. She tucks the folder into her filing cabinet. "I'm keeping this. You'll need it someday." I don't understand why, not yet. 12 years is a long time. So, let me walk you through it fast. I get my GED at 17. I'm embarrassed about it. All my friends are picking prom dresses, and I'm studying alone at Ruth's kitchen table. But I pass on the first try. At 18, I earn my CNA certification. I start working night shifts at a nursing home in Ashford, changing sheets and checking vitals for $8.60 an hour. I try to reach my mother once. I write her a letter, handwritten, 2 pages. I tell her I miss her. I tell her I'm doing okay. I ask if we can talk. The letter comes back unopened. Return to sender, her handwriting on the envelope. At 21, I try again. I call the house phone. Gerald picks up. "Don't call here again. She doesn't want to hear from you." Click. After that, I stop trying. I work my way through nursing school, days in the classroom, nights at the facility. Ruth covers groceries. I cover everything else. I graduate at 23. Ruth stands in the front row. Camera shaking because she's crying too hard to hold it steady. Cedar Valley Medical Center hires me straight out of school. I work the med-surg floor, then transfer to the ER. At 26, I close on a small 3-bedroom house with a chain-link fence and a porch swing. Every milestone, every ceremony, every photo on my wall, Ruth is in them. My mother is not. There's a 3rd bedroom in my house that I never use. I tell myself it's for storage. I tell myself I'll turn it into a home office someday, but I never do. It stays empty. Just a bed frame with no mattress and curtains I never opened. I don't think about why I keep that room. Not consciously. Not yet. It's a Thursday night. I've just pulled a 12-hour shift. 2 codes, a combative patient, and a new admit who reminded me of Grandma Vivian so much that I had to step into the supply closet and breathe for a minute. I'm still in my scrubs when the doorbell rings. My hair is in a loose ponytail. There's a coffee stain on my collar. I figure it's the Amazon driver leaving another package. I open the door, and my mother is standing on my porch. She's 52 now, thinner than I remember. Her hair is shorter, streaked with gray she never would have allowed 10 years ago. Her eyes are red and swollen. "Presley," she says, just my name, like she's testing whether it still works in her mouth. I don't move. Gerald is sick. Leukemia. He needs a bone marrow transplant. And you're the only possible match in the family. She waits. I count to 5 in my head. "Did you bring the same suitcase you packed my clothes in when you kicked me out at 16? Her face goes white. Not pink, not flushed. White like the blood just left. "Presley, I come in. I have something to show you." She steps inside slowly like she's expecting a trap. She's not wrong to be cautious, but it's not a trap. It's just the truth. I lead her past the front hallway, past the kitchen where Ruth's hand-painted home sign hangs above the stove, and into the living room. The wall across from the couch is covered in frames. My GED certificate, my nursing degree, the Cedar Valley Employee of the Year plaque, photos from every graduation, every holiday, every birthday party. In every single one, Ruth, in none of them, my mother. Colleen stares at that wall for a long time, then quietly, "You've done well for yourself. I did without you." My mother sits on the edge of my couch, like she's afraid to leave a mark. She keeps glancing at the photos, then away, then back, like she's looking for a version of herself in them and can't find one. "Tell me the real reasons you're here," I say. "All of it." She folds her hands in her lap. "Gerald was diagnosed 8 months ago. Acute myeloid leukemia. The chemo isn't working. His oncologist says a bone marrow transplant is the best option. And we're behind on the bills. The insurance lapsed about a year ago. Gerald had a rough patch and we missed some payments. A rough patch, that's what she calls it. How much?" She swallows. "The transplant alone could run 3 to 500,000. The house is already in foreclosure. We've been living on credit for months. I let that sit between us. So, you need my bone marrow and my money. I need my daughter." "No, Mom. If you needed your daughter, you would have opened that letter I sent when I was 18. You would have picked up the phone when I called at 21. You didn't need me for 12 years. You need something from me now." She starts crying. Quiet, controlled tears, the kind she's perfected over decades of performing for other people. I know I wasn't. I know things weren't. "What happened to the college fund, Mom? Did Gerald ever pay it back?" She looks at the carpet. "That's what I thought." I walk her to the door. She pauses in the hallway, glancing toward the kitchen, the photos, the life she had no part in building. I'll think about the medical side. I tell her, don't call me. I'll call you. She nods. She leaves. I close the door, lean against it, and look across the room at the manila folder sitting on my bookshelf. Ruth put it there the day I moved in. I haven't opened it in years. 2 days later, my phone starts ringing. The first call comes from a number I don't recognize. A woman's voice, warm, careful, rehearsed. Hi, is this Presley? My name is Linda. I go to Cedar Valley Community Church with your mother. She told us what's happening with Gerald. And I just wanted to say we're all praying for your family. I hope you'll find it in your heart to help. I hang up without responding. The second call comes an hour later, a man this time. Presley, this is Deacon Harris. Your mother is a wonderful woman and she's going through a terrible time. Gerald is very sick. I'm sure you and your mother can work through whatever happened between us. By that evening, I've received 4 calls, 2 voicemails, and a Facebook message from someone I went to elementary school with. Heard about your stepdad. So sorry. Your mom seems really broken up. Hope you two can reconnect. I call Ruth. She's doing it again. I say I know. Ruth says she called 3 people from my old address book last week, trying to find your number. When I wouldn't give it, she drove to your house herself. She's telling everyone I left that I abandoned her. That's been her story for 12 years, honey. She's not going to rewrite it now. I sit on my porch in the dark, phone in my lap, and think about how easy it is to become a villain in someone else's version of your life. The next morning at work, a coworker, Janelle, one of the ICU nurses, pulls me aside in the break room. Hey, Press. Weird question. Someone at my church mentioned your name yesterday. Said, your mom's been asking people to reach out to you about some kind of medical situation. The walls are closing in and my mother is the one pushing them. She shows up at Cedar Valley on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm mid-shift checking vitals on a post-op patient in room 214 when my charge nurse peeks in. Presley, there's a woman at the front desk asking for you. Says she's your mother. My stomach drops. I finish with the patient, wash my hands, and walk to the lobby. Colleen is sitting in one of the blue vinyl chairs, clutching a tissue. Her eyes are puffy. 2 nurses at the check-in desk are watching her with soft faces. She's already performing. Mom, what are you doing here? I wouldn't have to come here if you'd answer my calls. Her voice is small and wounded and perfectly calibrated for endurance. Come with me. I lead her to an empty consultation room and shut the door. Do not come to my workplace ever. Presley, your stepfather is dying and you are making a scene in the place where I earn my living. These people are my colleagues. My patients are behind those doors. She switches tactics. Tears dry up. Voice steadies. Your father, your real father. He would have wanted you to help. The room tilts. My dad died in a car accident when I was 6. He was kind and gentle and he sang to me before bed. Gerald is nothing like him. And my mother knows exactly what she's doing by invoking his name. You don't get to use a dead man to guilt me into saving the one who stole from me. She flinches. I love Dad, and Dad would have never let anyone pack my suitcase and throw me into a 38 degrees night. So don't tell me what he would have wanted. Colleen grabs her purse and stands. You're going to regret this, Presley. I've been regretting things since I was 16, Mom. I'm used to it. She walks out through the lobby. The 2 nurses at the desk watch her go. One of them looks at me. I shake my head. Don't ask. Mrs. Calloway calls that evening. Her voice sounds exactly the same as it did 12 years ago. Steady, direct, no nonsense. Sweetheart, I need to tell you something. Your mother stood up in Sunday service yesterday and asked the whole congregation to pray for Gerald. That part's fine. The man is sick. But then she said, and I'm quoting as best I can, please pray for my daughter Presley, that she'll find it in her heart to come home and help her family. I gripped the phone tighter. She made it sound like you're the one who left Presley, like you walked out on them. I sat there, in that pew, and I wanted to stand up and correct her right then and there, but I held my tongue. I'm 71 years old, and I'm still holding my tongue for that woman. Mrs. Calloway, I was on my porch that night. I saw what happened. I drove you to the emergency room. I wrote a notarized statement the following week because your Aunt Ruth told me to. That statement is still in my safe deposit box, and I brought a copy to Ruth years ago. I know Ruth has it. Good. Because there's a community health fundraiser at the church next Saturday. Big event. Half the town shows up. Your mother is on the planning committee. And if she turns that stage into another performance about her poor sick husband and her ungrateful daughter, maybe it's time someone told the real story. My chest tightens. Mrs. Calloway, I don't want to start a war. You didn't start anything, child. She started it 12 years ago on that porch. All I'm saying is the truth is a powerful thing, and it's been patient long enough. I stare at the manila folder on my bookshelf. When is the fundraiser again? Saturday 10. I'll save you a seat. That night, I sit at my kitchen table and open the folder. It's heavier than I remember. Ruth organized everything in chronological order, tabs and labels in her precise accountant handwriting. The ER discharge summary, date November 14th, 2014. Patient Presley A. Dixon, age 16. Chief complaint, right wrist contusion. Notes from the attending nurse. Patient states she was grabbed by stepfather during a domestic dispute. Minor brought in by neighbor, no parent or guardian present. The photographs, 3 of them. My wrist from the front, the side, and the back. The bruises are purple green, shaped like fingers. I was so young. My hand looks like a child's hand. Mrs. Calloway's notarized statement dated November 21st, 2014. I, Unis M. Calloway, residing at 412 Maple Lane, Cedar Valley, Virginia, observed the minor Presley Dixon standing on the front porch of 408 Maple Lane at approximately 9:15 p.m. on November 14th, 2014. The minor was carrying a suitcase. Temperature was approximately 38 degrees F. The minor was not wearing a coat. I heard a male voice from inside the home yelling. I brought the minor into my home and subsequently drove her to Cedar Valley Regional Hospital. And at the bottom of the stack, my letter, the one I sent when I was 18, still sealed. Colleen's handwriting across the front. Return to sender. She didn't even open it. I closed the folder. My hands are steady. My breathing is even. I've spent 12 years building a life strong enough to hold this weight. And tonight, I discover that it can. I pick up my phone and call Ruth. Do you have digital scans of everything in this folder? Since 2016, I knew this day would come. The community health fundraiser is Saturday at the church. Ruth pauses. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need to be there just in case mom turns it into a stage. I'll drive down Friday night. I hang up. I look at the folder. 12 years of someone else's version of my story. Saturday is 5 days away. So let me ask you something. My mother spent 12 years telling an entire town that I abandoned her. She never once mentioned the suitcase, the freezing porch, or the ER visit. Now, she's standing in a church asking people to pressure me into giving up my bone marrow and my savings. If you were holding that folder right now, the one with the ER records, the photographs, the notarized statement, and the letter she sent back unopened, would you open it in front of everyone? Tell me in the comments because Saturday is coming and I still haven't decided. Wednesday morning, Dr. Nathan Webb, head of emergency medicine at Cedar Valley and the closest thing I have to a mentor, stops me in the hallway outside the break room. Presley, got a minute? His office is small and cluttered with medical journals and family photos. He closes the door and leans against his desk. I'm not going to pry into your personal life, that's yours. But there's been some talk floating around from outside the hospital, not inside, about a family medical situation. I want you to know 2 things. First, this hospital evaluates you on your work, and your work is excellent, period. Second, if you need time off, it's yours. Thank you, Dr. Webb. I appreciate that. One more thing. He sits down, physician mode now. You mentioned just in passing last week something about bone marrow matching. I want to make sure you have the right information. I'd appreciate that, actually. He pulls up a chair. HLA typing is what determines bone marrow compatibility. It's not the same as blood type. You can share a blood type with someone and still not be an HLA match. Between half siblings, different fathers, same mother, the match probability is roughly 25%, sometimes lower. And if I'm not a match, then the whole conversation is moot. There's no procedure. The National Bone Marrow Registry exists exactly for situations like this. Can anyone force me to donate? No. Bone marrow donation is voluntary always. No court order, no family obligation, no moral argument changes that. A donor can withdraw consent at any point before the procedure. I nod slowly. Presley, whatever's going on, you don't owe anyone your body. That's not how medicine works. I thank him again. I walk out of his office and down the corridor, past the nurse's station, past this rooms full of people who are genuinely sick and genuinely in need. My mother assumed I was a match. She never verified it. She just assumed because assuming was easier than asking. Ruth arrives Friday evening with a duffel bag, a casserole, and a folder of her own. We sit at my kitchen table, the same table where I study, eat, plan my shifts, and apparently prepare to confront a decade of lies. Ruth spreads out printed pages between us. I did some digging, she says. Public records, court filings, all of this is available to anyone who walks into the county courthouse. She slides 3 documents across the table. Gerald Hartwell, civil judgment, 2018, owed $42,000 to a casino in Atlantic City. Default on a credit card, 2020, $19,000. And this one, she taps the 3rd page. A lien on the Maple Lane property filed 8 months ago. He owes the bank more than the house is worth. I stare at the numbers. This isn't a rough patch, Presley. This is a pattern. He's been gambling since before he married your mother. The college fund was just the first thing he emptied. And Mom knows. Your mother called me before she came to you 3 weeks ago. I told her, no, I won't be part of it. She said, if you won't help, I'll go to Presley myself. That wasn't a request. That was a threat. I pushed the papers back across the table. So, she doesn't just need my bone marrow. She needs you to bail out the whole house of cards. The marrow is the hook. The money is the play. Ruth leans back in her chair. I've watched my sister lie for 20 years. Five. She lied about your father. She lied about Gerald. She lied about you. And every time she found someone who believed her, the church, the neighbors, the PTA, everyone. I look at the folder, then at Ruth. Not everyone. Not Mrs. Calloway. Not you, and not anymore. Ruth reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. So, what's the plan for Saturday? I don't sleep much Friday night. I sit in the living room with the lights off, looking at the folder on the coffee table. Two folders now. The original with the ER records and Ruth's with the court filings. 12 years of truth stacked in manila paper. I don't want revenge. I run that sentence through my head over and over until I believe it. I don't want revenge. I want the truth to exist outside of this house. I want it to be heard by the same people who heard my mother's version. Saturday morning, I call Mrs. Calloway. Are you going to the fundraiser? Wouldn't miss it, dear. If my mother gets up on that stage and tells her story, the one where I ran away and abandoned my family, I'm going to need you there. Presley, I have been waiting 12 years for someone to ask me that question. I'm not planning a scene. I'm not trying to ambush her. But if she turns that microphone into a weapon, I need a witness who was there. I'll be in the third row, and I'll have a copy of my statement in my purse. I hang up. I shower. I put on a white blouse and dark slacks, the kind of clothes you wear when you want people to take you seriously. I blow dry my hair, something I haven't bothered with since my last job interview. Ruth is already in the kitchen, dressed and ready. She hands me a coffee. You sure about this? She asks. I'm sure that if she lies again, I'm not staying quiet. Good enough for me. I pick up the folder, just the ER records and Calloway's statement, not the court filings. I'm not there to prosecute Gerald's gambling history. I'm there to correct one lie that I left. I didn't leave. I was thrown out. The church is 11 minutes away. I haven't been there since I was 16. Cedar Valley Community Church hasn't changed. Same white clapboard siding, same gravel parking lot, same wooden signs out front with the sermon topic in crooked black letters. Inside, folding tables line both walls. Bake sale items on the left, silent auction on the right, a small stage at the front with a podium and a microphone. A banner overhead reads Community Health Fundraiser 2026 in hand-painted blue letters. About 150 people mill around. Families, elderly couples, kids chasing each other between chairs, the smell of coffee and cinnamon rolls. I walk in and the room shifts, not all at once, in pockets. A woman near the door leans to the woman beside her. A man at the coffee table turns his head. Whispers bloom like small fires. Mrs. Henderson, a round-faced woman who taught my Sunday school class 20 years ago, approaches with open arms. Presley, oh honey, your mother said you might come. It's so good to see you. Her voice is sweet. Her eyes are measuring. Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. It's been a while. I scan the room. Colleen is in the front row next to Pastor Whitfield. She's wearing a navy dress and a gold cross necklace I've never seen before. She looks composed. She looks ready. Mrs. Calloway is in the third row, exactly where she said she'd be. She nods at me, small, firm. I take a seat in the back row. Ruth sits beside me. I set my bag on my lap, the folder inside it. Colleen sees me. I watch her register my presence. Her eyes travel from my face to Ruth sitting next to me, and something flickers behind them. But she doesn't panic. She smiles. That smile is what scares me, because it means she has a plan of her own. The fundraiser runs through its usual program, a prayer, a welcome from the committee chair, a short presentation about the community health initiatives the money supports, normal, predictable. Then Pastor Whitfield steps to the microphone. Before we move to the silent auction, I'd like to invite a member of our congregation to share a few words. Many of you know Colleen Hartwell. Her family is going through a difficult season, and she'd like to speak briefly about it. Colleen. Colleen stands, smooths her dress, walks to the podium with the kind of measured grace that only comes from years of practice. She grips the microphone and lets out a trembling breath. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you all for being here today. She dabs her eyes with a tissue. As most of you know, my husband Gerald has been battling leukemia. The treatments have been hard, the bills have been harder. But the hardest part, the very hardest part, has been doing it without my family whole. She pauses, lets that land. My daughter, Presley, is here today. She turns toward me, arm extended, tears shining. She's here, and I have been praying for this moment. I've missed her every single day since she left home 12 years ago. Since she left, a murmur rolls through the room. Faces turn toward me, some sympathetic, some curious. A few people start clapping. Sweetheart, Colleen says into the microphone, voice breaking perfectly. Please come up here. Let's be a family again. Gerald is dying, and you're the only one who can help. Please, more applause. A woman in the second row wipes her eyes. A man near the wall nods like this is beautiful thing he's ever witnessed. 150 people are looking at me, waiting for me to walk up that aisle and embrace my mother, waiting for the reunion. I stand up, but not for the reason they think. I walk up the center aisle slowly, every step deliberate. Colleen's smile widens. She opens her arms. She thinks this is it. The moment she's been orchestrating for weeks. Daughter returns. Crowd weeps. Everyone forgives. Gerald gets his transplant. The story stays hers. I step onto the stage. I stand beside her, close enough to smell her perfume, the same vanilla one she wore when I was a kid. I do not hug her. I do not cry. I turn to the microphone. Thank you, Mom. You're right. It has been 12 years. My voice is calm, level, the voice I use when I tell a patient what's happening before a procedure. And since we're standing in front of the whole community, I think it's only fair that the whole community hears what actually happened. The room goes still. The clapping stops. Colleen grabs my arm lightly near the elbow. Presley, what are you doing? She whispers. I don't pull away. I just look at her hand on my arm. You said I left. I want to be really clear about something. I turned back to the congregation. I didn't leave. I was 16 years old. My stepfather packed my clothes in a suitcase and put me out of the house on a November night. The temperature was 38 degrees. I didn't have a coat. Someone in the middle section gasps. A man in the back crosses his arms. Colleen steps toward the mic. That's not Presley. You're twisting. I'm not finished. The room holds its breath. Pastor Whitfield stands near the side of the stage, hands at his sides, watching. I reach into my bag. Colleen's eyes follow my hand. And for the first time since she walked into this church, her composure cracks. I pull out the folder. Mom, you've been telling people I ran away for 12 years, so let me share what I have. I open to the ER discharge summary and read steady, clear, the way I'd read a chart at a care conference. Cedar Valley Regional Hospital, November 14th, 2014. Patient, Presley Dixon, age 16. Chief complaint, right wrist contusion. Nurse's notes. Patient states she was grabbed by her stepfather during a domestic dispute. Minor brought in by neighbor. No parent or guardian present. I look up. The room is silent, absolutely silent. A child in the back starts fussing and his mother scoops him up without a sound. I was 16. I had a bruised wrist and no parent showed up at the hospital. Colleen shakes her head. You fell. You were always clumsy. Even as a voice from the third row, she didn't fall. Mrs. Calloway stands, 71 years old, 5'3", wearing her good Sunday cardigan. Her voice carries across that room like she spent a lifetime waiting to use it. I was on my porch that night. I heard Gerald yelling. I saw Presley standing outside with a suitcase. I brought her into my home, and I drove her to the emergency room myself. She reaches into her purse and holds up a single sheet of paper. This is my notarized statement. I wrote it 1 week after it happened. I've kept it for 12 years, and I brought a copy today because I had a feeling it might be needed. Pastor Whitfield turns toward Colleen. His face, open and sympathetic 2 minutes ago, is now something else entirely, tight, questioning. Someone in the fourth row mutters, "Oh my God." Colleen opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. The room is no longer hers. I don't stop. I can't. Not now. The reason I found out that night, the reason any of this started, I fold the ER papers back into the folder. Gerald emptied my college fund, $14,000, that my grandmother, Grandma Vivian, some of you knew her. She attended this church for 30 years, saved for me from the day I was born. Every birthday, every Christmas, gone. A ripple through the room. An older woman in the fifth row presses her hand to her chest. She knew Grandma Vivian. I can see it in her face. When I asked about the money, Gerald told me to get out. My mother stood at the bottom of the stairs and watched, and then she locked the door behind me. Colleen's voice thin and ready. It was a misunderstanding. Gerald was going to pay it back. He never did. And since then, Gerald has 3 civil judgments for gambling debts. Those filings are public record. Anyone in this room can verify them at the county courthouse. I don't produce the court documents. I don't waive papers. I just state the fact and let it sit. A man near the sidewall clears his throat. Ed Morrison, silver-haired, quiet, glasses on a chain around his neck. He works at courthouse. He nods once. I'm familiar with those filings, he says. Simple. No drama. The room exhales or inhales. I can't tell which, but the energy shifts. People who were watching me with suspicion 10 minutes ago are now watching Colleen. She's gripping the edge of the podium. Her knuckles are white. The tissue in her other hand is balded into nothing. I take a breath. Almost done. I didn't come here today to humiliate anyone. I came because my mother stood on this stage and told a version of my life that isn't true, and I have the right to correct it. Mom. I turn to face her directly. The microphone picks up everything. You told me Gerald needs a bone marrow transplant. Then you told me the insurance lapsed. Then you told me the house is in foreclosure. She stares at me. Her chin is trembling. So let me ask you in front of everyone, did you come find me because you missed me or because you need my body and my money? The room holds still. Someone coughs. A folding chair cacks. Colleen sits down in the front row chair behind her hard like her legs gave out. She presses the tissue against her mouth. On the wall behind the stage, a laptop is projecting a video call. Gerald participating remotely from the hospital. His face has been on screen for the whole fundraiser, gaunt and gray, watching from his bed. The moment I ask the question, his camera clicks off. Just a black rectangle with his name. Colleen whispers. But the mic is still on and the room still hears. You're being cruel. I take one step closer to the microphone. Cruel is packing a 16-year-old's clothes and shoving her into a November night. Cruel is 12 years of pretending she doesn't exist. Cruel is standing in front of a church and calling it love when you only came back because you ran out of options. I pause. This isn't cruel, Mom. This is just the truth. And it's the first time this room has heard it. A woman 2 rows back stands and walks to the aisle, not toward us, just away like she needs air. A teenage girl in the corner has her hand over her mouth. Pastor Whitfield is standing very still, his Bible closed against his chest. I would have given anything to have a mother who showed up because she wanted me, but she showed up because she needed something. And there's a difference between those two things that 100 apologies can't erase. Pastor Whitfield steps to the microphone. He moves slowly, the way a man moves when he's recalculating everything he thought he knew. Colleen, his voice is low but clear. The room amplifies it. I've known you for 20 years. I officiated your wedding to Gerald. I've let you speak today because I believed you. I need you to look me in the eye and answer one question. He waits until she lifts her head. Did you or did you not put your 16-year-old daughter out of your home? 5 seconds, 10 seconds. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. She wasn't. It wasn't like that. It was more complicated than she can't finish. Every attempt at a sentence dissolves before it reaches the end. Whitfield nods heavy. I owe you an apology, Presley. This congregation should have asked more questions a long time ago. Mrs. Henderson, the woman who greeted me at the door with that measuring smile, is staring at her lap. Her husband puts his hand on her shoulder. Mrs. Calloway walks forward and hands her copy of the notarized statement to the pastor. He takes it, reads the first few lines, and closes his eyes briefly. Then a voice from the back, young, clear. I work at Cedar Valley Medical with Presley. Janelle sitting by the coffee table, arms crossed, chin up. She's the best nurse on our floor. She's the one who stays late with the patients. Nobody else has time for. I had no idea she went through any of this. And I think you should all know who you've been judging. Something shifts in the room that I can feel in my chest. It's not applause. It's not cheering. It's quieter than that. A recalibration. 150 people rewriting a story they thought they already knew. Colleen sits alone in the front row. No one has moved to sit beside her. Colleen stands. She wipes her face with the back of her hand, no tissue left, and turns to the congregation. Fine. I made mistakes. I know that. Her voice is raw now, stripped of performance. Or maybe it's a new kind of performance. I can never tell with her. But Gerald is still dying. That hasn't changed. My daughter is still the only family match we know of. If she lets him die because of something that happened when she was a teenager, how is she any better than what she's accusing me of? The logic is vicious. If I refuse, I'm as cold as she was. If I agree, she wins. Every head in the room swivels back to me. I step to the microphone one last time. Actually, Mom, I haven't been tested. You assumed I'm a match because we share a blood type, but that's not how bone marrow compatibility works. Lie. I look out at the room. Some of them know this. Most don't. HLA typing. That's what determines if someone can donate bone marrow. A shared blood type doesn't guarantee an HLA match. Between half siblings with different fathers, the probability is around 25%, maybe lower. I turn back to Colleen. Which doctor told you I was a match? Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. Because I'm a registered nurse. I work in a hospital. I know exactly how this process works. And you never tested me. You never even asked. A man near the aisle shakes his head slowly. A woman behind him leans to her neighbor and whispers something I can't hear. Colleen has nothing left. No tears, no guilt, no medical crisis to weaponize. You didn't come to me because I was a match, Mom. You came because I was the easiest person to guilt, and I'm done being that person. I stood on that stage looking at 150 people who had believed my mother's version of me for 12 years. The runaway daughter, the ungrateful child, the one who left, and now they knew. I want to ask you something. Has anyone ever rewritten your story and told it to the people you care about? Has someone ever turned you into the villain in their version of events and you had to sit there knowing the truth, but having no one to tell? Because I think that might be one of the loneliest feelings in the world. Tell me in the comments. I'll read every single one. Now, let me tell you what happened after I stepped off that stage. I stepped back to the microphone. The room is mine now. Not because I demanded it, but because the truth earned it. I want to be clear about something. I look out at the congregation, the faces I grew up with, the faces I haven't seen since I was a teenager, the new faces I don't recognize. I'm not refusing to be tested out of spite. If there's a legitimate medical need and I'm genuinely an HLA match, I will consider it through proper medical channels with my own doctor on my terms. I turn toward Colleen, but I will not give you money. Gerald's gambling debts are not my responsibility. They weren't my responsibility when he drained my college fund at 16, and they're not my responsibility now. She flinches. The word gambling lands differently when 150 people hear it. And Mom, you are not welcome at my home, my workplace, or in my life until you can tell the truth. Not I wish things had been different, the actual truth. I put my 16-year-old daughter out of my house on a freezing night because she caught my husband stealing from her. When you can say those words, we can talk. I step off the stage and then a voice from the back of the room. Familiar shaking. I raised this girl since she was 16. Ruth standing in the last row, purse clutched against her chest, chin trembling but jaw set. She drove 3 hours and sat through all of it without saying a word until now. I'm her aunt. I fed her, housed her, drove her to school, helped her pay for nursing college, and I have never, not once, been more proud of her than I am right now. The room is silent. Then someone starts clapping, then a few more, then most of the room. I don't hear it. I'm already walking toward the door. In the hallway. I lean against the wall and close my eyes. My hands are shaking. The adrenaline is wearing off, and my body is catching up to what just happened. Ruth reaches me first. She doesn't say anything. She just puts her arm around my shoulders and stands there. Then people start coming out. Mrs. Henderson is first. She's of me, and her face is different now. Softer, guilty. Presley, I owe you an apology. I should have known better than to take one side of a story at face value. I'm sorry, I nod. Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. Ed Morrison, the courthouse clerk, shakes my hand. His grip is firm and steady. If you ever need anything regarding those public records, you've got my number. A young woman I don't recognize approaches, mid-30s, a toddler on her hip. She speaks quietly, close to my ear. My mother did something similar. Different details, same playbook. I've never told anyone. I just thank you. She walks away before I can respond. I watch her go and wonder how many people in that room are carrying a version of my story inside them, locked up tight. Ruth squeezes my shoulder. Ready to go? 1 second. I look through the doorway back into the sanctuary. The crowd is dispersing. People are gathering their things, speaking in low tones. The banner still reads Community Health Fundraiser 2026. In the front row, Colleen sits alone. Her purse is in her lap. Her hands are folded. No one is beside her. No one is approaching her. She's staring at the floor. Part of me feels something. I won't call it pity. Maybe it's recognition. The understanding that my mother is a person who chose fear over truth over and over until there was nothing left but the lies. I turn away and walk into the parking lot. That night, I'm sitting on my couch with a cup of tea that's gone cold. Ruth is in the guest room, the one I actually furnished, not the empty one. The house is quiet. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. I almost don't answer, but something in my gut says pick up. Hello. A pause. Then Gerald's voice. Thin, raspy, nothing like the man who grabbed my wrist 12 years ago. The leukemia has taken most of him. You had no right to humiliate your mother like that. I set my tea down. Gerald, you stole $14,000 from a child. Then you threw her out into the cold. You've had 12 years to call me and apologize. Is that why you're calling? Static on the line. A machine beeps in the background. Hospital equipment. I need this transplant. Presley. Then register with the National Bone Marrow Program. That's what it exists for. Thousands of strangers donate every year. You might find a match. You're going to let me die. No, Gerald. You spent 12 years pretending I didn't exist. I'm just following the boundary you set. He tries to say something else, but I'm done. I've said everything I need to say to this man, and none of it requires me to keep listening. Goodbye, Gerald. I hang up. I block the number. I set my phone face down on the coffee table. Through the wall, I hear Ruth's door open. She pads into the living room in her slippers. Was that? Yeah. You okay? I am actually. She sits beside me. We don't talk. We just sit there in my house, in the home I built, listening to the quiet. I don't owe Gerald my marrow. I don't owe him my money. I don't owe him my sleep. And starting tonight, I'm not giving him any of those things. The following week moves slowly. News travels the way it always does in a small town through coffee shops, parking lot conversations, and church phone trees. Pastor Whitfield calls me on Wednesday. His tone is measured, careful. Presley, I wanted you to hear this from me. The fundraiser collected about $11,000. The committee has decided to hold the funds in escrow until we can verify Gerald's medical expenses through the hospital directly. We're not comfortable releasing the money based on, well, based on what we now know about the full situation. I understand, Pastor. Several members have also pulled their pledged contributions. I want to be honest with you. It's not out of malice. It's a trust issue. I get it. One more thing. We've asked Colleen to step back from the planning committee temporarily until things settle. I close my eyes. I don't feel victorious. I feel tired. Around town, the story reshapes itself. People are talking at the hardware store, at the diner, at the post office. Did you hear about the Dixon girl? Turns out she didn't run away. That Hartwell man, I always thought something was off. Vivian Dixon's granddaughter. Remember Vivian? She went to our church. Lovely woman. My grandmother's name comes back into the conversation for the first time in years, and that does something to me I don't expect. It makes me feel less alone. One piece of information surfaces through Ruth's network. A church member, Donna Kowalski, mentions that Colleen asked to borrow $5,000 2 years ago, said it was for home repairs. Now I'm wondering where that money actually went. Donna tells Ruth over the phone, the dominoes keep falling. I didn't push them. I just told the truth, and the lies couldn't hold themselves up anymore. At Cedar Valley, nothing changes. That's the part I appreciate most. The same patience, the same rhythms, the same 6 a.m. shift handoffs where I grip my coffee and listen to the night nurse rattle off vitals. Nobody treats me differently because my work hasn't changed, and these people know me by my work. Doc Webb catches me after rounds on Thursday. He doesn't bring up the church event directly. He never would. Good week, he asks, getting there. For what it's worth, Presley, you handled something difficult with more composure than most people twice your age could manage. Thank you, Dr. Webb. Now get back to work. Room 307 needs a dressing change. I smile. Back to the job. 2 days later, something happens that I don't see coming. Mrs. Delaney, a 74-year-old repeat patient with congestive heart failure, is back on my floor. I've cared for her 3 times this year. She's sharp, funny, and heartbreakingly lonely. Her daughter stopped speaking to her 5 years ago, and she mentions it every visit. I'm adjusting her IV when she reaches out and grabs my hand. Presley, I heard about what happened at the church. My friend Dorothy was there. I tense. Mrs. Delaney, let me finish. My daughter Catherine, she cut me off 5 years ago. I've spent every day since then telling anyone who listened that she's ungrateful, that she abandoned me, that I did nothing wrong. Her eyes are wet. After hearing your story, I called Catherine's number for the first time in 3 years. I didn't get through, but I left a message. And for the first time, I didn't say, I miss you. I said, I'm sorry. Tell me what I did. I'm ready to listen. My throat closes. I squeeze her hand. That's the bravest thing you've done all year, Mrs. Delaney. Braver than any surgery, she says, and laughs through her tears. 2 months pass. I hear the update from Ruth, who hears it from someone at the courthouse who processed a filing. Gerald found a bone marrow donor through the National Registry. A 26-year-old man from Ohio named Travis. A stranger, someone who signed up to save a life because it was the right thing to do, not because a mother showed up at his door with a rehearsed sob story. The transplant goes through. Gerald survives. The house on Maple Lane does not. The bank forecloses in December. Colleen and Gerald move into a 2-bedroom rental apartment on the other side of town. I drive past the old house once. The for sale sign is already up, and the porch light is off. I don't feel satisfaction. I don't feel guilt. I feel something lighter than both of those things. I feel untethered from an outcome that was never mine to carry. Gerald is alive. Good. I didn't want him to die. I just didn't want to be the reason he lived, because that would have given my mother a leash she'd never let go of. Ruth tells me one more thing. Colleen hasn't tried to contact me since the fundraiser. No calls, no letters, no church emissaries, nothing. It's the same silence as the last 12 years, but it feels different now. Before, her silence meant I didn't exist. Now her silence means she doesn't have an audience anymore. I think about my mother sometimes late at night when the house is quiet and the shadows stretch long across the hallway. I think about whether she lies in her rented apartment thinking of me, whether she replays that November night the way I do, but I don't pick up the phone and she doesn't either. Some silences are a truce. This one is just the truth with nowhere left to hide. 3 months after the fundraiser, I stand in the doorway of the empty bedroom. It's exactly as it's been since I moved in. Bare bed frame, no mattress, curtains drawn. The air smells stale, like a room that's been holding its breath. I've walked past this door 1,000 times. Every time I told myself I'd do something with the space. A home office, a craft room, extra storage. I had a dozen practical excuses and I believed everyone. But the truth is simpler and harder. I kept this room empty because, somewhere buried so deep I couldn't see it, I was keeping it for her, for the version of my mother who might someday knock on my door with an apology instead of an agenda. The mother I wished I had. She did knock. She brought a demand. I walk into the room. I pull the curtains open. Afternoon light floods in. Warm, golden. The kind of light that makes dust particles look like tiny constellations. I pick up my phone and call Ruth. Hey, I want to turn the spare room into a reading room. Would you help me pick out a bookshelf? She's quiet for exactly 1 second. I thought you'd never ask. There's an estate sale in Ashford next weekend. I saw a solid oak shelf. That's perfect. Let's go. That Saturday, Ruth and I haul a 6 feet oak bookshelf up my stairs, scraping the wall twice and laughing so hard I have to put my end down. We set it up by the window. Ruth finds a beat-up leather armchair at the same sale and insists on buying it. By Sunday evening, the room has shelves, a chair, a lamp, and a small stack of books Ruth brought from her own collection. I sit in that chair and read until the sun goes down. The room isn't empty anymore, and neither am I. 6 months later, I'm 29 now, and the reading room is my favorite place in the house. The oak bookshelf is already half full. Paperbacks from the library sale. Nursing textbooks I keep meaning to donate, and a collection of short stories Ruth gave me for my birthday. I started therapy in March, not because I broke down, because I wanted to understand why I built walls so high that even the people I love have to knock twice before I'll open the door. My therapist, Dr. Hang, asked me once, "What are you protecting yourself from?" And I said, "From being the kind of person who needs someone who doesn't want them. We're working on that." On Saturdays, Ruth drives down for breakfast. She makes the same thing every time: scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee, strong enough to strip paint. We sit at the kitchen table and talk about everything except the past, which is its own kind of healing. Mrs. Calloway stops by on Tuesday afternoons with tea and gossip. She tells me about the church, about the weather, about her cat's vet appointment. Normal things, ordinary things, the kind of things people share when they've known each other long enough to stop performing. Janelle from work invites me hiking on her days off. I said no 3 times before I finally said yes. The trail was steep and I complained the whole way up, but the view from the top was worth it. I'm not healed. I want to be honest about that. Some nights I wake up and hear the deadbolt turning. Some mornings I reach for my phone expecting a call that never comes. The scar tissue is thick, and Dr. Hang says that's okay. It means the wound was real and the healing is too. I'm getting there one room at a time. The letter arrives on a Thursday in October. No return address, but I recognize the handwriting, the same cursive loops, the same way she dots little circles instead of dots. My mother's his hand. I hold the envelope in my kitchen, standing by the window, and I don't open it. I call Dr. Hang. A letter arrived from my mother. How do you feel about it? I don't know yet. That's why I'm calling. We talk for 20 minutes. She doesn't tell me to open it or throw it away. She says, the question isn't whether to read it. The question is whether you're reading it because you're strong enough to handle what's inside, or because you're still hoping she'll say the thing you've been waiting 12 years to hear. I sit with that. At 9 that night, I open the letter. It's 2 pages. Colleen's handwriting neater than usual, like she took her time. She writes about Gerald's recovery, about the apartment, about missing the house. She writes that she thinks about me more than you'd believe. She writes, I wish things had been different between us. I read it twice. She never says what she did. She never uses the word sorry attached to a specific action. She doesn't say, I kicked you out. She doesn't say, I chose Gerald over you. She doesn't say, I lied to everyone we knew. I wish things had been different. Is not the same as I'm sorry for what I did. One is a passive observation about the universe. The other is accountability. I fold the letter. I walk to the bookshelf in the reading room and slide it into the manila folder right behind the discharge summary, the photographs, and the notarized statement. Evidence, all of it. Just different kinds. I don't write back. I'm sitting in the reading room right now telling you this story. The window's open. There's a breeze. The oak bookshelf is behind me, and the manila folder is on the bottom shelf, closed. I didn't tell you all of this so you'd hate my mother. I don't hate her. I feel something more complicated than hate. Something that doesn't have a clean name. Grief, maybe, for the mother I needed and the one I got. Here's what I want you to carry with you. If someone threw you out of their life and then came back when they needed something, look at the reason they returned. Not the tears, not the trembling hands. The reason, because tears are easy. Showing up with an apology you actually mean is hard. You don't owe anyone your body. You don't owe anyone your savings. You don't owe anyone your peace just because you share the same blood. DNA is not a debt. And if someone spent years telling a false version of your story to people you care about, you have every right to stand up and say, that's not what happened. You don't need their permission. You don't need to scream. You just need to be willing to say the truth out loud in a room full of people who were told something different. That's the hardest part. Not the anger, not the hurt, the quiet courage it takes to say, this is what actually happened, and I can prove it, and I'm done being the villain in someone else's script. My mother wrote, I wish things had been different, but she could have made them different. She could have unlocked that door. She could have opened my letter. She could have answered the phone. She didn't. And that's not my story. That's hers. Forgiveness is a gift, and gifts are only meaningful when they're freely given, not extracted from someone standing on a stage with a microphone. Sunday morning. I'm in the reading room with my second cup of coffee and a book I've been meaning to finish for 3 weeks. The sunlight is coming through the window at that low autumn angle that turns everything gold. The oak shelf casts long shadows across the floor. My phone rings. Ruth, I'm on my way. 15 minutes. I'm bringing muffins. Blueberry. Would I bring anything else? See you soon. I set the phone down and walk to the front door. I open it. Not because someone's knocking, not because I have to, but because the air is cool and the street is quiet, and I feel like letting the morning in. A few minutes later, Ruth's car pulls into the driveway. She gets out with a paper bag in one hand and her purse in the other. Behind her, Mrs. Calloway's sedan parks at the curb. Eunice steps out carrying a thermos and a tin of her pumpkin bread. I didn't know you were coming, I tell her, Ruth called. I invited myself. At my age, you stop waiting to be asked. The three of us gather in the kitchen. Ruth sets out the muffins. Calloway pours tea from her thermos. I get out the plates, the blue ones Ruth bought me when I moved in. We sit together. Muffins, tea, sunlight on the table. Nobody talks about the past. Nobody needs to. We're here. That's enough. I look around my kitchen at Ruth's painted sign above the stove, at Calloway's thermos with the faded floral print at the window, looking out onto the porch where I once stood with a suitcase. I used to think family was the door that locked behind me on a cold November night. Now I know family is every door I chose to open since. If this story hit close to home, I want you to know you're not alone. Whether you're the one who got pushed out or the one learning to heal, or even the one who did the pushing and finally starting to understand why your child walked away, there's room for all of us here. Drop a comment, tell me your story, or just say where you're listening from. That's enough. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe. We've got more stories like this one coming, and you can find the next one in the description below. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next.